saying EPA does not have the authority to do this through the back door. Now, this, of course, came through the courts. It was a 5-4 decision. We lost. I represented the skeptic scientists in this case. The Supreme Court ruled 5-4 in Massachusetts versus EPA, saying EPA has the authority, does not have to, but has the authority to treat exhalation as pollution. Well, there's a resolution by Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and she's saying EPA does not, Congress is allowed to vote veto major rules within 60 days, and she's saying no. The problem is it has 41 co-sponsors, 3 Democrats, and that means 3 Republicans have said no. They're from the Northeast, to no surprise, Scott Brown and the ladies from Maine. Now, Scott Brown, during the campaign, said, climate changes, we all know this. What I don't want to do is something as big as what EPA is proposing or cap and trade without getting to the bottom of the scientific scandals. Well, I assure you we've not gotten to the bottom of the scientific scandals. I submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to the University of Virginia on Friday. I'm not sure how far we'll get, but we will litigate it. We're suing NASA probably this week for our own climate gate. We're pushing this. But right now we've already got 3 Republicans in the Senate who have not co-sponsored a bill to say EPA will not do this through the back door. Instead, the world's greatest deliberative body, why we shall deliberate on what will be the biggest intervention in our economy in our history. And you have 3 Republicans not just co-sponsoring this thing? You need to shut down the business of the Senate if the administration tries to do this through the back door. And 3 Republicans have not co-sponsored.
Is that why they're so scared of Rand Paul? Because he gave that speech saying, we're not going to let you use fake environmentalism to shut our economy down?
I'm sure he troubles some by pointing some things out. I was told by the Spanish green jobs professor, Dr. Calzada, in an email that Rand Paul, in one of his acceptance speeches, pointed out that there's a new steel mill in Kentucky, the North American Stainless plant, with the 175 workers. I write about this in my book, Power Grab, in which those steel workers are jobs that are sent from Spain because of cap and trade and green job schemes. The CEO was very clear. He said you can make windmills out of steel, but you can't make steel using windmills. I'm paraphrasing. But Rand Paul pointed this out, and I don't think people in Washington like to hear the idea that the state is not responsible for economic growth.
Yeah, I mean, the grass grows, the sky is blue, the sun comes up in the morning because Barack Obama reads off a teleprompter. Stay there. Final segment with our guest, the new book. I've got to read it. Power Grab, How Obama's Green Policies Will Steal Your Freedom and Bankrupt America. Christopher Horner, author, researcher, litigator at the Supreme Court, advisor to Congress, new book, Power Grab. Don't forget our new video we're carrying, Don't Tread on Me, Rise of the Republic, States' Rights Movement, difference between a democracy and a republic, available at Infowars.com, or you can watch it online at prisonplanet.tv. And your purchases of books and videos make this radio broadcast, what we do here, possible. So you got big mega corporations in bed with government to create monopolies. As John D. Rockefeller I said, competition is a sin. And this will destroy our free market system that's made this nation so great. Has nothing to do with the environment. Chris, we were talking during the break, and you pled, many times before the Supreme Court. The arrogance level, though, I mean, I don't see Republicans opposing Elena Kagan, who is like Joe Stalin in drag or something. And then I was talking to you about what's happening with BP, and, it just seems like it's a lawlessness. But give us your take on that in closing.
Well, what we said before going out last time was the idea to many elected officials that Washington is not responsible for economic growth is anathema here. So somebody like Rand Paul who's going to come up and say those things is going to be a troublemaker and isolated. You've got companies like BP who choose. Remember, their favorite politician in the last 2 decades was Barack Obama, a guy who swore to cause your listeners' energy prices to skyrocket. BP had no problem with that. Obama swore he had no problem with high gas prices. He just said they shouldn't go up too fast for the obvious reason. People will start calling for policies that will allow us greater access to the greatest energy reserves in the world. So you've got a problem with these companies like BP that are in bed. Look, they can have their public spats now, but it's not that much of a spat. BP remains in bed mostly with the left, sometimes with the right, in Washington-style right, because they, like Enron, lost the plot. They began as an energy company, and then they started to try to make money off of derivatives and windmills and solar panels and pushing paper and not making anything. They tried to make money off of doing nothing. Now, a couple of months after I left Enron in 97, there was an Oval Office meeting, August 4th, 1997. Sir John Brown of BP and Ken Lay from Enron. with the President of the United States and the Vice President, Al Gore. And on August 1st, 1997, a Friday, in preparation for the Monday Oval Office meeting, there was a briefing memo written for Ken Lay, which is available online at masterresource.org. You can find it. In it, they say, okay, the unanimous Senate, I mean, the context was a week or so before the Senate had unanimously said, don't go to Kyoto and do this. So these two fellows, Ken Lay and John Brown of BP, go into the Oval Office, and they say, ignore that Senate. You got to go to Kyoto, and you got to do it, and here's what it has to be. And since, obviously, we know who won that one, there's a memo also available at Master Resource, and I discussed it in my book, from Ken Lay's Kyoto advisor from Kyoto 5 months later saying this treaty is exactly what we've been lobbying for. So the unanimous Senate gets ignored when they say, look, you know, we go along with a lot, but not this. Not what Jacques Chirac calls global governance, not an obvious wealth transfer, not obviously rationing energy here.
How has the Senate changed, though? I mean, they can see that everything Obama's doing is political suicide, and still it looks like they'll be able to pass it. I mean, are they all bought off? Are they blackmailed? What's going on?
Well, Lindsey Graham's gotten so much pushback. He was the test case, and now the folks in South Carolina aren't happy with him, and so he says he'll vote for it, but he won't be a co-sponsor. Look, progress, I know if Cap Weinberger said about Détente, if this is progress, we can't afford much more progress, but you start setting some examples here. When Democrats are running as anti-cap and traders, as happened in the Pennsylvania race in which they succeeded, when Scott Brown wins Massachusetts, saying in Cambridge that, no, you don't do this until you get to the bottom of what stinks. Of course, we don't know where he's going to vote on this thing. You are turning a very big ship of statism trying to steal your liberties. But read that book and listen to what they're saying.
No, I agree with you. I mean, we're having victories that they're having to bait and switch now and aren't calling it cap and trade. Amazing. Christopher Horner, thank you for coming on with us. The book is Power Grab, in stores all over, cei.org. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Alex.
You bet.